Welcome to our GEO guide. So I want you to imagine looking at your website's analytics tomorrow morning and just seeing your organic traffic has dropped by like 60% overnight.
Oh, wow. That's the nightmare scenario.
Right. And not because your server crashed or, you were hit with some manual penalty for spam.
Yeah.
You lost that traffic simply because the search engine decided to just intercept your users. It's giving your answers away for free right there on the results page.
I mean, the days of typing a query and mindlessly scrolling through those 10 blue links, that's evaporating.
It really is. And that's exactly why we are, unpacking the survival guide for this exact scenario today in our deep dive.
Yeah, it's super timely.
We're looking at the first chapter of this highly detailed essay by author Jörg-Owe Schneppat. And Schneppat has essentially mapped out the whole anatomy of this transformation.
He really breaks down how generative AI is forcing us to completely rethink visibility online.
Right. So the mission of this deep dive is to basically extract Schneppat's playbook. Because if Google is just summarizing the internet now, the central anxiety for any digital operator or anyone listening is pretty obvious. Like, how do you survive when the clicks just disappear?
Yeah, and that anxiety is totally justified, honestly. Schneppat addresses it by really analyzing the mechanics of what he calls the new phase of search.
New phase.
Right, because for, the last 2 decades, the singular objective was just to manipulate your way to the top of a vertical list.
Yeah, you just wanted that number one spot.
Exactly. The number one spot in traditional search meant guaranteed visibility, and you knew that visibility reliably converted into clicks.
Okay, let's unpack this with a physical scenario just to make it concrete.
Sure.
Imagine walking into a massive, sprawling library, and you're looking for the history of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
I'm with you. The traditional search engine is like the librarian sitting behind the desk who just points down a long hallway and says, the history aisle is over there, third shelf on the left.
Right, they just give you directions.
Yeah. You, as the user, still have to do all the heavy lifting. You have to walk the aisle, pull 5 different books, skim the chapters, and, synthesize all the facts yourself in your own head.
What's fascinating here is how generative search completely short-circuits that whole process.
Totally.
In your scenario, the new AI librarian doesn't just point you to a hallway anymore.
No, okay.
They simply pull the single best paragraph from the most reliable book in the whole building and read it directly to your face.
Right. You never even walk down the aisle.
You never browse the shelves at all. And Schneppat identifies this really profound dual nature to this shift.
Which is?
Well, the obvious risk is just total invisibility for generic content. Like, if a website merely repackages shallow, unstructured information, the AI has absolutely no reason to pull from it.
It's just ignored.
Exactly. Those pages just cease to exist in the user's journey.
Okay, so I hear Schneppat outlining this massive opportunity to become, the specific book the librarian reads from. But let me be deeply cynical for just a second here.
Go for it.
If I spend my resources conducting original research, and the AI just scrapes my hard work and serves it to the user without sending me a single click, why should I fund that research?
That's the big question.
Isn't this just teaching us how to be better unpaid employees for the search algorithms?
I mean, that is definitely the most common and potent criticism of zero-click search right now.
Yeah.
But Schneppat's framework forces us to look at the psychology of the user at the exact moment the AI delivers that answer.
Okay, how so?
Well, LLMs, large language models, they don't actually know anything, right? They synthesize.
Right, they're basically just predicting text.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They require real source material to prevent hallucination. So if your website provides original value and really dense, verifiable data, you become the preferred cited source nestled directly inside that AI summary.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and Schneppat argues that this builds immense authoritative trust with the user before a click even happens.
So the branding happens right there.
Exactly. The first meaningful interaction with your brand is now occurring upstream, like within the AI's answer itself.
Wow. So the real estate we are actually fighting for has shifted from the blue link to the citation bracket.
That's a great way to put it.
Which obviously forces a completely new technical approach. And this is where Schneppat introduces the concept of generative engine optimization, GEO.
Yes, GEO.
But, the tech world is notorious for minting new acronyms every, 6 months just to sell consulting hours.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have to ask, is GEO actually a distinct discipline, or is this just a fresh coat of paint on traditional SEO?
Yeah.
Is SEO finally dead?
No. Schneppat is very explicit about this.
Yeah.
SEO is absolutely not dead, and GEO does not replace it at all.
Okay, good to know.
SEO remains the mandatory base layer. I mean, a website still needs an optimized crawl budget, an XML sitemap, really fast server response times, and, an indexable architecture.
Because if the bot can't see it, it doesn't matter.
Right. If a generative bot cannot technically access your page because of some JavaScript rendering error, you cannot be a source.
Makes sense.
Schneppat positions GEO as building directly on top of that technical foundation.
And the distinction Schneppat makes in the mindset is really what caught my attention.
Yeah, the mindset shift is huge.
The classic SEO asks a very competitive, almost ego-driven question. How can my page rank higher than the guy next to me?
Right.
But GEO asks a fundamentally different, almost epistemological question. It asks, how can my page prove it is trustworthy enough to be cited as a factual source?
And moving from just ranking to actually being cited requires a massive leap in editorial standards.
I would imagine so.
Because traditional SEO, it operated mostly on external signals, right? You could build a massive network of backlinks to a totally mediocre article.
Oh, we've all seen those.
And the algorithm would essentially just count those links as votes of confidence, pushing you right up the list.
Yeah, gaming the system.
But generative systems operate totally differently. They're using semantic extraction.
Meaning they actually read it.
Exactly. They don't just count votes. They read the relationships between entities on your page. Schneppat points out that with GEO, you really must ask if your claims are empirically verifiable.
Like having proof.
Yes. Do you have structured data confirming the author's credentials? Are you offering unique, concrete data points rather than just vague generalizations?
See, that makes me wonder about user intent, though, because if I am asking my phone for the capital of North Dakota, a zero-click extraction is totally fine.
Sure.
I don't need a deeply trustworthy source to tell me it's Bismarck. I just want the trivia.
Right. Trivia is easy.
But Schneppat isn't really talking about trivia sites, is he? He maps out specific high-stakes industries that are going to bear the brunt of this shift.
Yeah. Schneppat explicitly warns that competitive fields like local services, e-commerce, health and wellness, finance, legal information, and tech, those are the epicenter of the GEO shift.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Those categories align perfectly with what the industry already knows as YMYL, your money or your life.
Yep. High stakes.
Because in these fields, the user isn't just looking for a quick fact. If someone is searching for, say, the tax implications of a 401k withdrawal or the side effects of a new medication.
You're inherently skeptical.
Exactly. They demand real explanations. And the AI is fully aware that hallucinating a medical or legal answer carries massive liability.
Oh, huge liability.
So its standard for extracting a source in a YMYL category has to be impossibly high.
And Schneppat refers to this exact mechanism as source selection.
Source selection. Okay.
Yeah. In a traditional model, Google simply presented the user with a ranked menu and pretty much transferred the burden of verification to the human.
Like, here are the links. Good luck.
Exactly. If you clicked a bad link, well, that was on you.
Yeah.
But with AI overviews, the generative system is synthesizing the answer and kind of staking its own reputation on the output.
That's a huge shift in responsibility.
It is. So Schneppat lists the strict criteria for a strong source under this new pressure. The content has to be current, specific, highly structured, and it really must offer value beyond what the AI can just summarize on its own.
But wait, let me pause you there. If I have a perfectly fast website, right? Great domain authority. And I write a 2,000-word article on 401k withdrawals that hits every single traditional SEO metric. Why would the AI skip me? Schneppat mentions this gap where pages rank well but fail to be cited.
Yeah, the AI skips that page because of how language models process information mathematically.
Mathematically.
Yeah, an LLM maps concepts in a high-dimensional vector space. It actually calculates the semantic distance between words and facts.
Wow.
So if your 2,000-word article is just full of conversational fluff, repetitive phrasing, and vague advice like, be sure to check with your accountant regarding penalties.
Which is what every blog post says.
Exactly. The vector mapping for that is incredibly weak. There are no hard data points. Schneppat emphasizes that a generative engine craves specificity.
Give me an example.
It needs the page that explicitly says, a withdrawal before age 59 and a half triggers a 10% IRS penalty.
So no fluff.
None. Vague content is literally invisible to the extraction algorithms because it just lacks those dense, structured facts.
It is the difference between giving someone directions by saying, head generally north past the highway versus saying, drive north for 2.4 miles and turn left at the brick library.
Exactly. The machine requires the geographical coordinates, not the vibes.
Not the vibes. But here is the trap I see in Schneppat's framework.
Okay.
If these generative engines demand hyper-specific, rigidly structured, data-dense bullet points, and I restructure my entire website to feed that machine...
You're going to alienate the humans.
Yes, I am going to alienate every human being who tries to actually read my work. We all despise those robotic, SEO-stuffed recipe blogs. No human wants to read a sterile database.
And Schneppat totally anticipates this exact conflict. He frames it as the new visibility challenge. Because the historical reaction to any algorithm update has always been to just find a cheap shortcut.
Oh, always.
When Google wanted content, people spun garbage articles. When Google wanted schema markup, people spammed fake FAQ sections.
Yeah, the industry is full of shortcuts.
But Schneppat is unequivocal here. Those shortcuts are dead. You absolutely cannot flood the zone with cheap AI-generated text to game an AI-driven search engine.
So what's the solution then?
The solution he proposes requires designing every single page to satisfy 3 entirely distinct audiences simultaneously.
3 audiences at the exact same time.
Yep.
Okay, think of it like hosting a dinner party where you have to cook one single dish for 3 completely incompatible guests.
I like this analogy.
Sitting at your table is a snooty food critic, a hyper-strict nutritionist, and just a regular, genuinely hungry friend. Plating one meal that appeases all 3 sounds impossible. Let's look at the hungry friend first. The human reader.
Right. So the human reader is seeking a narrative connection. Schneppat observes that humans require clarity, emotional resonance, usefulness, and a compelling reason to take action.
They want the food to actually taste incredible.
Exactly. If your page reads like a technical manual just to satisfy a bot, the human will bounce immediately.
And then what happens?
Well, the user experience metrics will just plummet, and your site will lose all its authority anyway.
Oh, I see the friction. Because I could write a beautifully flow, empathetic essay for the human that perfectly addresses their, say, emotional pain points regarding a legal issue.
Right.
But if I bury the actual legal statutes inside complex metaphors, the second guess, the AI nutritionist, is going to starve.
Correct. The generative answer system, our nutritionist, it strips away the emotion and the narrative pleading. It only cares about the macronutrients.
Just the facts.
Yeah. Schneppat outlines that this AI audience demands precise information, undeniable trust signals, and what he calls answer-ready sections.
Answer-ready sections.
Yeah, it needs to scan the page and instantly locate the verifiable claims, the author entity data, and the cited sources. It requires information structured in a way that can be mathematically extracted into its semantic model.
Which leaves the third guest, the traditional search engine crawler, the food critic.
Yes.
And the critic doesn't care about the emotional narrative, and it doesn't care about the macronutrients. The critic is basically just inspecting the cleanliness of the kitchen and the technique of the chef.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Schneppat points out that the crawler requires technical accessibility.
Which means?
It needs a clean HTML structure, logical internal linking, rapid load times, and flawless mobile responsiveness. The crawler is there to validate the technical foundation.
So the modern web publisher is really trapped in this profound juggling act.
Definitely.
If I ignore the crawler, the page is never indexed, meaning neither the human nor the AI will ever find it.
Right.
But if I write exclusively for the AI, I just generate a sterile list of facts that repulses the human reader, which destroys my conversion rates.
Exactly.
And if I write purely for the human, I lack the precise, structured data the AI needs to actually cite me as a source. Schneppat is essentially saying the barrier to entry for digital success just got exponentially higher.
The barrier has been raised permanently. However, Schneppat frames this as an evolution of quality, not some systemic apocalypse.
That's reassuring.
Yeah. The generative engine optimization guide he lays out is highly practical for those who are actually willing to adapt. It really revolves around taking the legitimate expertise you already possess and just formatting it so that these new zero-click systems can actually recognize it mathematically.
So it's about translation.
Yes. When the AI evaluates your page, it must encounter frictionless trust signals. It has to be able to verify who authored the content, why that specific entity is qualified to speak on the topic, and what independent data backs up their claims.
It is a brutal wake-up call for lazy publishing, that's for sure.
Oh, completely.
We are officially transitioning from an era of information retrieval where Google just handed you a pile of documents into an era of information synthesis where the machine actually reads the documents and formulates a conclusion for you.
Summarizing Schneppat's thesis for the future, optimizing a website purely to rank on a vertical list of blue links is an outdated strategy.
It's done.
It's over. The future belongs exclusively to websites that are engineered to be genuinely trusted. You have to prove your authority so thoroughly that an artificial intelligence feels confident citing you in its own synthesized answers.
The philosophy has to shift from, look at me, I stuffed the most keywords, to, trust me, I am the definitive source.
Yes, and as we conclude our analysis of Schneppat's work today, there is a broader philosophical implication to this shift that extends far beyond just marketing.
Oh.
Yeah. We've spent this time discussing how to optimize for trust signals so an AI will select our content, right? But as search engines increasingly transform into direct answer engines, they stop being neutral directories, and they actually start acting as the active arbiters of truth.
Wow. They decide what exists and what gets hidden.
Exactly. Who actually gets to define what a trustworthy signal looks like in the architecture of the future internet?
That is a scary thought.
If the algorithms alone decide which sources are credible enough to synthesize and which are ignored, we have to ask how diverse, dissenting, or newly discovered perspectives will ever reach the surface before a user simply accepts the zero-click summary and moves on.
That is a staggering implication, because if the AI librarian is only reading aloud from the books the algorithm itself deems appropriate, we are placing blind faith in the neutrality of its selection criteria.
We are trusting the filter entirely.
Well, that is a heavy, heavy concept to navigate as this technology reshapes the ecosystem. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Jörg-Owe Schneppat's survival guide for generative engine optimization.
It was a pleasure unpacking this with you.
To continue exploring the mechanics of GEO and to learn how to actively prepare your own digital presence for this massive shift, you can visit the website blue3w.com. We will see you next time as we keep mapping out the changing infrastructure of the web. Goodbye.